Hi there and welcome to the Explaining History videocast. If you tune into this from time to time, you'll know that it's got a slightly different tone to the Explaining History podcast, which, by the way, if you want to listen to it, is explaininghistory.podhoster.com. You can join the nearly 50,000 other subscribers on that channel right now. But I do something that's slightly different here in that I try to talk to students a little bit about some of the principles and ideas that are going to really maximise your marks. They're going to make you the outstanding student that, I think we all can be. The one thing I think that distinguishes an outstanding student from an okay one is the amount they read and the amount that they are willing to commit to absorbing the subject in every way that they can do. Now, there are no two ways around this one. There's no kind of easy solution. It is about reading. I know your teacher probably says this to you, and if they don't, they really should say this to you, but it is about how much you read. So let's say, for example, you're going to check out what there is to read at your local bookshop. You find some tome on the First World War or the Russian Revolution, which is 500 pages thick and enormously difficult and inaccessible, and the kind of thing that you're going to really struggle with. Well, the smart thing to do is to chunk down what you're capable of actually taking on board to begin with. Don't throw yourself into tasks that you're not going to be able to complete, because that's all you're going to teach yourself is that I can't do it. Which is obviously kind of like a lie. It's something that really isn't the case, but that's what you will draw from this example. So don't throw yourself into incredibly weighty stuff that you're not going to be able to grapple with. If you can grapple with, a 500 book on the revolution or Nazi Germany, what have you, go ahead and do it by all means. But a far better and more effective strategy is to build yourself a mental framework through reading. Now, what I mean is to firstly look through study guides, look through things like the Access to History series. If you are a student of a particular time period that I myself have covered, you can check out the Explaining History ebook series. But I'm not really trying to plug myself, really. Take it or leave it on that one. But find a loose framework so that you've got a basic understanding of knowledge. What this does is it gives you in your mind a rough outline picture of the events of, say, Nazi Germany. Then, once you've done that, that is just simply the place to lay your foundations of knowledge. That is where you can then move on to weightier books, thicker tomes, more intensive, more detailed reading, and you can really start to make good use of those kinds of books. If you haven't got that framework to start with, then you're reading this very complex stuff and going, but I don't even understand the basic things. I don't even know, who Lenin was, or what the Ludendorff offensive was, or what have you. And so it all becomes a waste of time, and it becomes more frustrating, and you get into a vicious cycle where you feel disempowered, you feel you can't do it, and it all becomes a big mess. So don't launch into battles you're going to lose right from the get-go. Start with the easy wins. Start with creating a very simple framework of knowledge around your subject. If you're finding study guides too involved, look at class notes. Look at the very basic, most simple level you can go to and build up from there. Don't try to start with the hardest thing you can do and try to reverse engineer things, because you'll only fail. Well, it's likely anyway, put it that way. So this is my advice. Once you've got that framework of knowing roughly when things happened, who was involved, and the sort of things that kind of happened, say from 1933 to 39 in Germany, then you can get into what you need to do is get into a regular pattern of reading. So you need to commit. If you're doing your A levels, you need to really be committing a couple of hours at the very least a week, perhaps even breaking that down into 20 to 30-minute slots per day. I mean, I would obviously, devour history books all day long. It's kind of my job. I would advocate that you try to read more than that per day, but for many, I know I'm going to ask these things, whether I get them or not is a different matter. So get yourself, firstly, build your framework of knowledge. Then, when you're building on that, to fill in the framework with really detailed knowledge, so you have an expert, not just an okay, not just a good, but an expert understanding. Then you need to structure yourself a regular reading regime. What happens when you read regularly? Well, you build up a reading stamina. You may be able to do a couple of pages of some really weighty stuff to begin with, but as you it's like doing press-ups or running or whatever. As you build the stamina and you come back time and time again, even when you've had a difficult time reading, you come back time and time again. Gradually you'll build up a stamina, and then you'll find yourself flying through very dense books. And this is where you go from being a history student to being a historian. Once you have transitioned from knowing a bit about the subject and getting through to being an authority, that's when you get your A grades. That's where they come from. That's how they emerge in your mind, and your understanding and your knowledge and your analysis and your ability to dissect and develop thoughts about a particular historical time period go from being good to expert. And this is what the examiners want to see. The examiners, if you look at the assessment objectives for most exam boards, at the highest level you're being asked to do the kinds of things that professional historians do. So why not? Why don't we just do them? In order to be able to do the kinds of things professional historians do, we need to read their work. We need to see how it works. We need to come to the sorts of, being able to have the sorts of insights, or as best we can, because, let's face it, we're not emeritus professors at Cambridge University. But as best we can, we need to get towards that point. And the history examiners, most exam boards, will reward you in spades the more that you try to do that. So, just to recap, create your very basic framework if you've got no knowledge at all. Look in study guides, create a timeline, create a chronology, create a very rough picture of when things happen, why, and perhaps why they happen and who's involved. Once you've done that and you've got a very loose picture, that's when you can start to really build the detail by proper academic reading. I'm sure your history teacher can give you some reading suggestions. If you're really lost at sea and you need to get the title of a top quality book out there that I recommend, drop me a line. I recommend books to people all day, every day. You can get me at info@explaininghistory.com. Just email me the topic you're interested in, and I'll find the historian to fit you. As I said, info@explaininghistory.com. So get out there, build your framework, put the knowledge into it, become expert, and get those top marks. Catch you in the next video. Thanks.